understand how the law and lawyers can interact with all of those areas. And so, frankly, at the time when I felt I needed to make a decision, I wasn't really quite sure. And I was like, oh, I can be a lawyer because that's broad enough and it will allow me to do many different things. And I will say that it has served me well. So I would like to kind of start this, at least my section of the presentation, by finding out who's in the audience and at what stage they are, because that'll help me kind of tailor the things that I say to you. So can I just get by show of hands, how many high schoolers do we have, for example? High schoolers, anybody in high school? Okay, a few high schoolers. Middle school, who's in middle school? And then grade school. Okay, do we have anybody in college here? Do we have any professionals that are maybe considering a career switch? Okay, all right. Yes, of course. I mean, it's hard to say, but um, so let me just kind of give a brief introduction to who a lawyer is and what they do, because I think sometimes a lot of people think that they know, and usually the idea that people have of what a lawyer is comes from television, right? So I think if you ask most people, they'll say, lawyers go to court and they argue cases in front of a judge and on behalf of their clients, and that's what a lawyer does, correct? Does anybody have any different ideas about what a lawyer is or what a lawyer does? You can just speak up. It's fine. It's fine with me if you just speak up. I just want to get a sense for what people think. Anyone? If you guys don't volunteer, I'll just start calling on people. Yeah. Lady, can you please can you pass your mic around so they can maybe talk a little bit and tell us? Does anybody want to tell us what they think a lawyer does?
I think that a lawyer is somebody who studies the law. So they might spend some of their practice studying laws, and they don't just defend cases, but I think they also study a lot.
Yes, that's true. Lawyers do study a lot. They study the law a lot. So that's accurate. Anybody else have any other guesses what a lawyer is or what a lawyer does?
I think a lawyer does practically very good at speaking and have like a way with their words.
Yes, this is also true. Most lawyers are good at speaking, and actually, words are sort of the number one tool that lawyers use. So this is really good. Anybody else want to chime in on lawyers and what they think lawyers do? Okay,
They
so
stu-
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
they study the law.
Yes, we do. So all of the answers that you guys have given are on point, and they are precisely what lawyers do. Each of your answers capture a little bit about a section of what lawyers do. So, sort of the broadest definition or interpretation that I have now is that lawyers help people or society solve problems by playing within the rules. So our society and our community is guided or is set up according to a set of rules, laws, regulations. That's what laws are, right? And so we help solve problems when they come up by applying the rules that we have or interpreting the laws and rules that we have around our society. That's the broadest way to think about it. And as we go on and we talk a little bit more, I'll give you guys examples of how this works, and then you'll see the different scenarios in which that applies. So let me go back and tell you a little bit about how one gets to become a lawyer if you're interested, right? So first of all, after high school, you go to college. You can study whatever you want. Sometimes people have ideas as to what you would do in college or university to become a lawyer, but you can study whatever interests you, whatever you want to do. And actually, um, over time, people have found that um, people who make the best lawyers actually have some kind of specialized skill before they become lawyers. So because it helps them become really good at being a lawyer in that area. So for example, let me say you could go to college and study English, just English language. And that can make you ready to be a lawyer. You'll be very good because as was described here, words and using words are a big part of being a lawyer. But if, for example, you were a chemist, you could be a very good lawyer at helping people with inventions. Or you could help, let's say, a drug manufacturing company because you'd really understand the work that they're doing, and then you help them with the rules and laws that apply for making drugs. So that's an example of how you can take something like that, and then you can take the laws and the rules that work in that area of society and help them do that well. That's just one example. So you go to college, you can study whatever you want, and then after that, you apply to and get into law school, and you have to study for 3 more years, and then that's when you get a law degree. And then there's an exam, the bar exam. It's administered in each state. So if you're in Texas, you will take the bar exam in Texas. If you're in Chicago, you'll take the Illinois bar. If you're in Boston, you'll take the Massachusetts bar. And then you get a license to practice law in that state. That's essentially the path to becoming a lawyer. I'll pause here to see if you guys have any questions, and then also to give moderator a chance to direct the conversation, so I'm not taking up too much time.
You still have more time though, but I have a question myself. So are you able to? I'm interested in this because I'm a health professional, and ours is kind of licensed also, and I wanted to know if you are able to get, to practice law in different states by, getting your legal license in all of those states.
Yes, that's correct. So as I said, licensing happens on a state-by-state basis. So you could take the bar exam and get licensed in as many states as you like. But typically, you don't have to do that because just as exists in nursing, for example, a lot of states have reciprocity. So if you are licensed as a lawyer in a particular state and you remain in good standing, you don't have any faults, let's say, found against you. Usually, if you've been licensed and in good standing in a particular state for 5 years or more, you can move to a different state and you'll apply and not have to take the exam again, and they'll usually just grant you a license. So you waive into it, or you are granted reciprocity to practice law in that state. There are a few states in which you can't do that though, but that's only a handful of them. I think less than 10 in which you can't do that, where you have to take the exam. But for the rest of the states, usually if you have 5 years of experience as a lawyer or more than that, and you're in good standing, you can apply and waive into practice in that state.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Okay, so I promised earlier that I would give you guys some examples of how lawyers use the rules and applying the rules to help people solve problems, which is essentially what we do. And I think probably everyone in the audience is familiar with the most common example, which is the litigation example. So let's say, for example, there are rules in the society, every society, against stealing, for example. You can't, take somebody's property without their permission and take it for your own. So there are laws in the state against that. So lawyers help the society enforce those rules. One, by helping the state or whoever's thing was taken, was stolen in this case, to say that, hey, you took my thing, whatever that thing might be, and it's against the law. First of all, it doesn't belong to you, it belongs to me. And so, one, I should have it back, and two, there should be some punishment for you taking my thing without asking me. So a lawyer will act as the prosecutor, which is the lawyer that's acting or representing the state or the government or the community, all of us who are interested in making sure that people are not just going about taking people's things and without permission. So a lawyer then will, in a court, what they'll do is apply the laws that the society has against somebody taking other people's stuff and present the case and say, okay, so there's a rule here that says you can't take people's things without asking them. And this person did that. And they would demonstrate how the person took, person B took person A's stuff without, asking them. And if they're able to show it, then we can agree that this person has violated the rules that we have for ourselves as a community. On the other side of that, right, the community, all of us, are interested in making sure that people are not falsely accused, right? If person A says person B took my thing without asking me, as a society, we want to make sure that it is true, the person is not falsely accused. If we're going to punish them in some form, take away their freedom, let's say, that the accusation is correct. So they will have to prove that this actually happened, that it wasn't, for example, an accident, right? Maybe let's say person A is saying person B took my black shoe, but maybe person B has a black shoe that's similar to that. And when they were picking it up, they thought that it was theirs. So on the other side of this example that I'm giving you, there'll be a lawyer who will be the defense lawyer who will go to court and argue in front of the judge and in front of the jury that, hey, person B did not mean to take person A's shoes. Here, look, they also have a pair of black shoes that looks exactly similar to that. And so when they took it, it was an accident. They didn't really mean to do that. If they are able to demonstrate that successfully in the law, we would be referring to intent. So they didn't have an intent to steal person A's shoes. And so then the judge will say, okay, if they didn't mean to do it and it was just an accident, then there's no crime here. So that's an example of how a lawyer would help the society to prevent people from taking other people's things without permission. But also, a lawyer would, using the rules, help the person who's been accused to demonstrate that they didn't mean to. And also make sure that if we are accusing somebody or alleging that somebody committed a crime, that it has actually been demonstrated and proven that the person did that thing before we punish the person and maybe take away their freedom. That's one example. I'll give another example that is maybe a little less familiar to folks in the audience, because you don't encounter that as much maybe on TV or something. And that will actually be from the area of the law that I work in the most, which is in corporate and commercial practice. So let's say you have a business or a person and they are trying to buy some goods, or maybe buy a whole business from somebody else. There's a business and it's really successful. So there's a whole bunch of laws and rules around how you go about buying something from somebody, right? You have to have a conversation with them. The rules say about, hey, inform them that I want to buy these things from you. And then they have to say, okay, I hear you. I agree that you want to buy these things from me and I will sell them to you. And then there has to be a conversation about at what price are you going to buy these things? And then there has to be a conversation about at what point are you going to give me these things that you've agreed to sell them to me? So you can take an example in this scenario that I've given you, where somebody says, oh, I want to buy these things from person A says, I want to buy these items from person B. And then later, there's a dispute, right? There's an argument. Maybe the things don't get transferred, or they are transferred at the wrong time, or maybe when they are transferred, they are not exactly what person A thought that they were buying. And so lawyers will get involved. Lawyers can get involved, in making sure that when they are agreeing to this transaction, all the rules are followed. Subsequently, after the transaction, if there are some issues, lawyers can get involved in helping us figure out, okay, what really did you say you wanted to do? At what price did you say you wanted to buy it? When did you agree that you were going to deliver the goods? Were the goods delivered on time, in the right quantities, those kinds of things. And so lawyers will take the rules that we have as a society, or in this specific example, even maybe the rules that the two people set for themselves between each other, and go through it and say, okay, this is what we agreed, these are the terms that we agreed, and this is how we solve this problem of the dispute that you have. So that's yet another example of how lawyers help society and individuals play by the rules.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Lawyer Nikwe. Sorry. Yeah, if we have any questions for our lawyer here, we can wait, and then after the other mentors have also spoken, then we can come out with our questions. I have a question myself. So,
Good.
all right, thank you again. So we're going to move to our next mentor, Mrs. Adelina Owusu, who is a teacher. All right, so ma'am, the floor is yours.
Okay, just as she said, my name is Adelina Owusu, and I'm a teacher. I've been teaching for a very long time. I would say 30 years. Yes, 30 years. I was a teacher in Ghana, and I came here to be a teacher as well because I love teaching. That's my passion. I've known no work than teaching. When I came here, I tried working with in sales, and it was hard for me that just to stand there and wait for somebody to come and buy something. I wanted to be, I'm very interactive person. I want to be interacting all the time. That's why I love teaching. It's a passion, and I love to share knowledge as well. So that's why I ended up in teaching. But I would say my first grade teacher is the reason why I became a teacher. At first, where we come from in Ghana, people look down upon teaching. So if you say that you want to be a teacher, they really don't get it. So it got to a time that I was challenged with my passion. I wanted to change to something that is accepted in the society. But I was guided by my parents and my siblings that just do what you love. And I went into teaching. So I taught about, let's say, about 12 years in Ghana, and then came here to the United States and continued my passion. So to become a teacher in the United States, let's say Texas here, you also need a license. But the first thing is you should have a bachelor's degree. You cannot be a teacher without a bachelor's degree. So you gain your bachelor's degree, and then you take your license, and we get license too. You take your license course. But we have so many different, about 3 ways to become a teacher. There is one that you straight ahead, you go to the college and decide to be a teacher. So you take educational courses. You come out, that time you have opportunity to do teaching practice. You go to the schools and teach, and you be supervised, and then you become a teacher. That program is there. Those who go straight to college to become teachers. And then we have people that go to college and obtain other degrees in maybe science, math, whatever degree that you take, chemistry, whatever, legal, whatever degree you take. Then they decide to be a teacher. That is the ACP, that is Alternative Certification Program. That's one when you have finished your degree, your first degree, bachelor's degree, and you want to be a teacher, you enter into this program, and they will see you through. You pass your professional test, that is the license test, and then you take your content area test too. The content that you're going to teach. If you want to be a social studies teacher, you do that content area test. You cannot practice or teach without taking the content area test. So you take your content area. And so you take 2 tests to become a teacher, the license test and your content area. And then your grade level is part of the content. The grade level you want to teach. If you want to be an elementary school teacher, that is there. Some of us have from first grade to kindergarten. They call it pre-K to 12. Some of us have that. pre-K to 12. So I can teach at any level. And then if you just want to be a high school teacher, you take only from 6 to 12 or from, is it, Joanna? 9 to 12. Okay. And if you want to be just middle school, you just do your middle school teaching. But normally the category is pre-K to sixth, and then from 7 to 12. Yeah. So that is how you can, if you want to be a teacher in Texas, that's what you do. And Texas license is such that it's accepted in many states. But when you are from another state and you come into Texas, you have to take the license there. They won't let you use whatever license you bring in from somewhere. So though I was a professional in Ghana, when I got here, I have to take the license test to be able to practice teaching here. And we go through a lot of background check to become a teacher. And it affects, teaching is such that it affects your life. You can't be a normal person when you're a teacher. Everything that you do is watched. Your life after school is very, very important. It is watched to become a teacher. Some teachers have been fired because they found themselves at places that they were not supposed to be, or things that they don't have to see. So our license is very, very important. To be a teacher, you have to make sure that morally you are right. Even test taking can cost you your job if you don't supervise the test very well. You lose your license. We lose our licenses like water. It flows like that. There are so many things that causes a teacher to lose their license. So that profession is not easy to be in there. You have to be morally right to be in that profession. And I would say that it's also a profession that is very secured. Your job is secured. Your job is secured. And also, if you're a family-minded person, that's my opinion. If you're a family-minded person, you want time to spend with your family. Though these days people work from home, you can work from home and then your children are still, they will go to school, okay? Because they don't want to hear babies crying whilst you are working. So your children will still go to school. So if you're a family-minded person, the best job that you want to think about is teaching profession. And teaching is not only in the classroom. We have so many aspects or programs in teaching, things that you can do in teaching. We have teachers that are in the classroom. I used to be in the classroom, but I'm not in the classroom. I'm a support professional. We have a lot of support professionals. We have counseling. There are so many programs or departments in education. It's not limited to the classroom only. Sister Joanna is a teacher, but her is in instructional teaching. They help people with using software to teach. So teaching is, educational profession is big. It's a big thing. If you don't want to be in the classroom, let me put this clause there, but for you to do anything in education, you have to have classroom experience before you can do anything in education, at least 3 years. So everybody that is in education profession, you see them in the offices. They didn't just jump there. You have to have 3 years at least in the classroom experience before you can be a superintendent, a principal, assistant principal, a counselor, a crisis intervention specialist. All these are part of teachers. The only people that don't need classroom experience to work in education are our nurses, the school nurse. The school nurse, and then the auxiliary, the support staff, like the front office people. Okay, they are the only one. But if you want to do education, be in the education profession and interact with students, you have to have at least 3 years classroom experience. I think I'm good with that. Any information? So the first thing is bachelor's degree, and from that you can move on to every degree that you want in education.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Sousu. We're going to hold on with the questions again, and then we will move to our next mentor, Kwame, who is also a teacher, but in reading and writing, right? Okay. All right. So, Kwame.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. I'm very interactive, so I like feedback. I'm gonna ask questions. By show of hands, those are in high school. Right now, what do you want to do? Can you get the mic, please?
To become a manager of the business.
What type of business?
About shipping and buying or delivering things.
Now, let me ask you this. Is that something that you want to do, or that's something that your mom said to do?
No, I just also choose what I want to do. What about just like your stores where then you buy things, sell
Okay.
things?
So you want to do supply and chain?
Yes,
Okay. So you know you need to go to school, right?
yes,
You like reading
yes, I do.
and you like math.
Yes, I do.
Yes, sir. Good man. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I want to become a lawyer, probably divorce lawyer or criminal justice lawyer.
Jesus. She said, I know all of y'all gonna get divorced. Y'all gonna need me one day. Jesus. Okay, that's admirable. I like that. So you know you need to talk to, right?
Yes.
He got some connections for you. I can't talk about that, but you know you gotta go to school, right?
Yes.
You like reading?
Yes, but math is my favorite.
Math? I'm gonna need you to pick up the reading a little bit too. Because he told you lawyers gotta study.
Yes. So far, I'm all A's and everything.
Good job. Congratulations. All right, I'm gonna take one more. Anybody else? Even middle schoolers. What do you want to do when you get old, when you grow up? Or when you get to college?
ODBYN.
Ooh. Nice. Good luck to you, sister. I'm gonna pray for you. Got you. God gonna bless you. All right. So as my lovely sister here said, she went the traditional route of going to school, getting your certification, the whole nine. I on the other hand, went the alternative route. I started out didn't want to have initially I wanted to be a psychologist, specifically children. I don't like adults, for the love of me. They too opinionated. They know everything. You can't tell them nothing. So my thing was working with children. And I was at TSU. After a year and a half, I said, nah, this is not what I want to do. And my advisor told me, she said, oh, I know exactly where you need to go. And I actually majored in human services, consumer science. Nothing to do with, it still has something to do with education, but I was more so special education, disability, kids that are disabled. That was my passion. And I did that in undergrad. We had to volunteer. So all through undergrad, I was like Auntie said, working at Walmart, Target, dealers. I did all of it. There was even a point in time where I was working at USAA. Didn't know nothing about insurance, but somebody was paying me to take y'all money. Thank y'all, appreciate it. So I did that, and then finally when I graduated, I found myself again running from education because I don't have the patience nowadays. These kids, y'all parents, I commend y'all. My heart's to y'all salutations. Because these kids know more than you did when you was their age. And that's where I come in because I find myself kids anywhere I go, no matter what, kids would always come and talk to me for some reason. And I'm just, why are you talking to me? Why are you here? Right? But I come to find out that my passion was with children. And the best way to have an impact was in education. So then, as Auntie said, I started looking into ways into going into education. I didn't have no experience. Of course I did, but in undergrad because I volunteered and it was required. So most people, most places, they're not gonna look at it like, oh, nah, you gotta start over. So I started off as a TA. That means a teacher's assistant, where teachers need printers, they need copies made, they need errands ran, the kids need to go to the restroom, whatever. That was me. And I did that for 2.5 years. And I started thinking, I was like, man, I can possibly do this teaching thing. I mean, it's all about talking, and you can finesse if you know the game. Shout out to the lawyer. Um, so I started at a non. It wasn't your traditional, typical HISD for Ben ISD none of like those big schools, but that's where I got my start. I started teaching, subbing for pre-K and kinder. And then from there, I started getting experience in first grade, second grade, third grade. But as I started getting higher experiences, I'm like, yeah, you got one time to say the wrong thing to me and I'm ready to pop off. So I'm gonna go back to the little kids. So that's where now I am. I teach second grade reading and writing, which is now a component that is lost in society. I wouldn't even say in education, in society, because again, we're glued to this. I'm not saying that is a bad thing, but it's how you use it. You can find out a lot on this in a positive way or in a negative way. So after some time, I wouldn't say that district, but we know what's going on right now. After some time there, I saw the changing of the tides, if you would say. So I jumped ship. And now I'm currently teaching at another district that I currently love. And one thing I will say about education is you have to have patience and you have to love what you're doing. It is not about the pay, because if any educators in here and all educators in here will be honest, and even those online will be honest with you, you don't get paid nothing if we're realistically. The hours and the amount of money, your personal money that you spend compared to what you get, plus the disrespect from parents, not the children, because you're there for the children, but from the parents who are supposed to help you. And I get it. We're humans, and we all have lives. We all go through things. But when you're dealing with other humans, you have to be patient, no matter where you are. And that's an art that is lost in society today. So I felt like there was a need, and based on what I've learned, like she said, she had a teacher in first grade. She has an awesome memory. I can't even remember what I ate yesterday, but I can remember two of my teachers, my second grade teacher and my ninth grade through. Actually, she was my teacher all 4 years in high school and was my English teacher. So those two had the impact on me. And I wanted to also be that person that someone can say, man, because of this man, I'm able to do this, or because this man, I'm able to realize this about me. So that's why I got into education. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Kwame. And Joanna, would you like us to go through our questions before, or Do you want to just go ahead and anything is fine? Okay, so then we're going to go to Joanna. Joanna, we have Mrs. Joanna Nunu, who is also in education. She will say a little bit about herself and her journey and how the career is. I'll give you mine.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I wasn't expecting this. But I also went through the alternative certification program to become a teacher. In college, I studied math and economics, so education wasn't really, on my radar. But I found out about a program called Teach for America, and they were offering, an opportunity to come to Texas to teach for 2 years and really make a difference in some of the most difficult schools in the Houston area. And so I worked at the Houston Independent School District. I actually stayed for close to a decade teaching math in middle school, 6th through 8th grade. And I'm not going to repeat any of what Lady Adelina and Mr. Mensa, right, have said. But what I'll say about teaching the perks, okay? So we talked about all the requirements, but the perks, talking about being family-oriented, you get your summers off, right? You get 3 months in the summer. You get 3 months in the summer to actually enjoy the summer with your children if you have children. And if you don't have children, you get to take on a second job. So while I was teaching and I did not have kids, I always taught summer school. I had some additional hobbies. I'm also a businesswoman, so I always had something going. And so I always saw the summer as like my harvest season, right? Because you get double paycheck. You get your school paycheck and you get an extra paycheck for doing a second job. At Christmas also you get your 2 weeks off. You get Thanksgiving off. You get spring break off. You pretty much get like, I don't know, a total of like 4 months off in the summer, right? And sometimes you get extra Fridays off during the summer. So there's always there's some perks to teaching that allow you to spend more time with your children outside of, as compared to, the corporate America and the requirements. Now, on the other side of the education, I'm more in the corporate side of education. I don't get any of these holidays. I really manage my own schedule, so I'm still in a better place, but prior to maybe 2 years ago, I used to work 12 months a year, and there were no additional perks when I got out of teaching. So I would say that's one thing I miss about being a teacher, just all the time that you get off to spend with your family, but you're still getting a paycheck. So it's actually a pretty cool career if you are passionate about it. But the children are important. So it's about the passion and the willingness to give it your all, no matter how hard it is. That should get you into considering the career. Definitely not a moneymaker. So just be passionate before you even think about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanna.
I want to say something about the paycheck.
Okay.
It's not that we are not doing anything and they are paying us during summer. It is we decided to spread our money so that we will have something going on during the summer. We are not paid during the summer. It is the pay. Okay, we all left something. We sign contracts every year as teachers. It is not guaranteed that you are going in. We sign contracts, and your contract is discussed with you. If you're in education, your contract is discussed with you every year. So every year we renew our contract. At first, those that are ahead of us, they were having non-contract time. And then it came to 5 years. Now it is every year or every 2 years. It depends on how you were hired. So we get contracts. And when you sign your contract, that is when you decide how you want to be paid. If you want to be paid 24, the whole 12 months, they will spread your money. It's not that we are not working in summer but getting paid. It is our own money that is spread throughout the year for us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Owusu. So we're going to take a short break, a 10 minutes break, and then when we come back, we're going to start with our questions. I have a lot of questions, especially for law and even teaching here, because at some point I wanted to be a lawyer. Yes. After being a nurse, I was like, I want to do medical law. And then I moved here to the United States, but I don't really know much about the law here. So I need more information. Well, okay, so we're going to take a 10 minutes break, and then when we come back, we'll go to our questions. All right. All right. Welcome back to our professional mentorship. And so, as I said before we went on that break, now the floor is open to all your questions. So, if you have any questions for our education mentors here, you can go ahead and ask. And if you have any questions for our lawyer here, you can also go ahead and ask. I have a couple of questions, so I'm going to start. So my question goes to the lawyer. I wanted to find out which, like, if you can give me like the different how do I put it? Yeah, I would say specialty. The different types of law that you can study.
Okay, so thank you for that question. It's actually a really good question. I think it will allow me to shed some light on this. The way that legal training is set up here in America, mostly your law degree is a generalist degree. So you don't necessarily specialize in a practice area in law school, or let me say that you don't have to, right? So you can, if you know the kind of area that you want to go to, the practice area that you want to go into, you can take more elective courses in that area to prepare yourself. And then in coming out, you can start to focus your practice on that area. But broadly speaking, a law degree is a law degree is a law degree, which means that once you come out, you can, by practice, take a specialization. And a lot of your specialization will come in the practice. Having said that, there are two broad categories of lawyers: litigators and transactional lawyers, or corporate lawyers, right? So that would be, broadly speaking, the type of lawyers that go to court and argue cases, and the kinds that work on transactional issues, and for the most part, don't go to court. And then when you get further into that, right, there are people that, let's say, for example, among the people that go to, among the lawyers that go to court, there are ones that deal with, let's say, injuries. And then there are ones that deal with business disputes. And there are ones that deal with crimes. Those are three examples of the ones that go to court. And then when you come to the transactional ones, there are ones, for example, I've given the example already of business transactions, but there are also, for example, regulatory and compliance lawyers, where they are not dealing in a transaction, but they're helping make sure that people are following the rules. And you find that in a lot of different settings within the organizations. So those are some examples of the different specialties that you can have. But as far as your training goes, for the most part, if you have an interest area, what you'll do is, while you're in law school, you'll take some elective courses that are in that area to, boost your knowledge of that area. And then when you get out and you start practicing law, you begin to focus more on that area. You learn more about the law in that area, and you practice it more, and then that's how you develop your expertise.
All right, thank you, Lawyer Nikwe. Okay. We do have a question in the back.
So as for the speech and Mr. Mensah, how do you encourage your kids, like the younger ones in grade school, or how do you get them to be interested in more reading and comprehending what you're reading?
So one thing about reading is you have to first have an understanding, right?
Right.
So a lot of times when we talking to our kids, we talk at them. Go get this, do this, come here. But instead, having a conversation, hey, why did you do this? Can you come here, please? And then you give them time to think about their response. Can you come here? Oh, can you give me 1 second? I'm doing something. I'm finishing up what you told me to do. Or I'm busy at the moment. I need a second. But the way I encourage my kids is I find their weakness, and then I encourage them to get better. I don't focus on what they're doing right, because I expect you to do this. I expect you're gonna come in, you're not gonna throw your shoes on the floor. You're not just gonna throw your backpack on the floor when you come home. When you come home, you know your shoes go here, your backpack, you hang it up, you take off your clothes, you wash your hands, whatever you need to do. You do your homework after that. There is structure. So I focus on the negative and I tell you, hey, think about it this way. And I just as we started, I asked anybody, what is it the one thing that you want to do? Okay, if you want to do you want somebody to teach you out of your money, or do you want to get paid for what you're working for? And no matter what, you're always going to get the same response. So if you don't want somebody to teach you out your money, why not learn how to read? Because and then I'm gonna let you know, America hates you. America hates you already, and a person that you can read and think, you a dangerous person. So, and then I also getting to know the children. You have to know your students, their likes, their dislikes, what ticks them off. It's just as if you're dating, right? You're gonna know your spouse. You have to get to know your spouse. What makes her happy? What makes her sad? What makes her cry? So kids, and they are emotional. They don't know how to communicate. So you also have to be patient with them because they're gonna no, calm down. Talk to me. What happened? You ask them questions that requires them to have to think. So when it comes to the reading, you turn that into the same thing. You read a paragraph. Okay, now let's break down what we just read. What do you understand about it? And then whatever holes that you can figure in whatever misconceptions they have, you can clarify. And once you do that and you see that there is an understanding, what I like to do is, okay, you just said the answer. Now, are you able to put it on paper? So I'm making it as a challenge for you. I bet you can't do it. And they'll be like, yes, I can. Okay, prove it. But then you realize you don't wrote a paragraph and you don't even know it. So I find different ways, and you always have to be creative as well. And that's my superpower is I can think on my feet with children just like that. Oh, okay, that's boring. You bored? You bored? Bet you can't beat me in rock, paper, scissors. Bet you can't beat me. You want to play? Why not? You want to play me rock, paper, scissors? All right, I'm going to take your snap. See how she starts smiling? She started yawning. She's bored. Okay, I'm gonna get you back. So you always have to just pay attention to the students and not focus so much on the negative as much as the positive. There has to be balance.
So even as a parent, like when they come home.
As a parent, when they come home, one thing I would say is communication. Again, talking with your child instead of talking to them, at them. That's not helping. Hey, why didn't you? I told you to take out the dishes. Why didn't you take out the dishes? And then allow them to also express out how they feel. Because again, we're all humans. We all have feelings. So what? They're a child. You still can't respect them because they're a child. So that's what I would encourage for parents, just being patient with your child and truly understanding where they're coming from. And also the last thing is not imposing your ideas on your child, your expectations on your child. Allow them to be children. Give them freedom to grow, make the mistakes.
All right, thank you. We have another question.
We're going right there. I was just going to add something to it. I think with children nowadays, you know how technology has taken over their lives, right? They spend unlimited amount of time doing, technology. And they switch from, their attention span is like very, very small. So they switch from one app to the other, from one video to the other. It's 10 minutes, very short, moving on. And so what I have found to be effective, especially with reading for my children, is to give them a time limit. I tell them, okay, when you come back from school, I want you to read 10 minutes of a specific book. 10 minutes. They can put their timer on their iPad just silent 10 minutes. So if you put a limit to it and you give them that challenge, they usually, step up to the game. Just for me, I think it's about letting them know that there is a start and there is an end. But if you just say, go and read your book, and they don't know the limit, it's challenging for them to actually get into it.
Another last point, also, I will say negative positive reinforcement. As she said, putting a limit, right? You can also say, hey, if you read for 5 minutes, you get to spend extra 5-10 minutes on your iPad, or you get to stay up extra 5-10 minutes, something that will also entice them.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Do we have any more questions? I still have a question for all the mentors. Okay, my question is, what are some of the challenges that you face with your jobs? It goes to all of you.
Okay, I'll start. One of the challenges I face is communication, because in Texas we have a lot of Spanish-speaking people, and particularly where I am, they've been told, "Hey, bring your kids here. They have Spanish-speaking teachers." No, we don't. So the language barrier is one of the challenges, and also sometimes, mostly, parent involvement or community involvement. That is, we've gotten away from that, and we need to bring that back ASAP.
So I'll go. What I do is credit recovery. That is an intervention. That is to make sure that the kids have their credits for graduation. That is what I do. And the challenge here is parent participation and the students themselves. That's a big challenge, because my challenge is the attendance. If they don't come, I can't help them. That is my biggest challenge. Parents' involvement in the students themselves. Yeah. And in the classroom, it was the disrespect. That's the children. That was a big challenge. And how to handle that. Classroom management. It's not easy, because I've taught teenagers all my life. So that is a challenge. But parent involvement is number one. The parents that you need to come to the school, they are the ones that don't show up. And my job is such that I deal with those kind of parents. All the children that I deal with are children in need. They are at risk, but parents are not there to sign off, encourage them to come to school. So that's the biggest challenge. Yes.
Yeah, I think that the biggest challenge that I face, and that a lot of my lawyer friends talk about also, is the frustration of dealing with people. There's a funny thing about the law practice is often people will seek you out for some advice or some situation that they're dealing with. The number one frustration that lawyers face is clients don't listen. They'll come pay you money and ask you what to do. You'll tell them, and they'll do something else entirely different. That's exactly what happens. And then you have to go back and clean up after them. So that's really the number one frustration is being in this situation. And I think the law is somewhat unique in the sense that there's an extent to which people feel like, oh, it's common sense. Like everybody kind of knows, because these are just generally rules that we govern ourselves by. So everybody kind of knows it. So even when you're in a situation where you're dealing with clients and you're the expert and you're providing them advice, it's very often they might be like, oh, but my brother said this, or oh, but my cousin said that. And it's like, no, but your cousin is wrong. So you have to lead them back to following that advice and doing that. So there's a lot of human relations that's involved in being a lawyer and being able to kind of not only communicate your expertise, but there's a component of almost like counseling or psychology that's attached to it, because you establish your expertise and then you have to kind of gently guide your clients towards what is in their own best interest, and that's the part that sometimes can be frustrating.
Thank you all so much. I have a question. Well, it was, I don't know how they send a text, but there's a question in the audience. Oh, let me take the audience first.
So I have two questions, one to the lawyer, and then the second to the teachers, the educationists. First to the lawyer. I'm wondering, what are the prospects of getting a job after going to law school? How easy is it to be employed? That's the first question. Second one goes to the teachers. You know, our background really, growing up, is different from here. Because we grew up in Ghana, went to school in Ghana, had a sort of different kind of discipline. And for instance, in Ghana, we don't spare the rod. Here, it's not like that. How do you cope with situations where the kids are being stubborn or difficult? How do you handle that? Thank you.
Okay, so I'll take the first question about job prospects for lawyers. So generally speaking, I would say that the prospects are pretty good. There's a constant demand for lawyers. Maybe the kind of lawyer that the demand for certain kinds of lawyers shifts depending on what's happening in the economy. But broadly speaking, lawyers are needed in bad times and in good times. So like, say for example, when the economy is really bad and unfortunately people are losing their jobs and they're losing their homes and things like that, right? Lawyers that practice in the areas of bankruptcy and foreclosure and the like are very busy. And then when the economy switches around and it's booming, for example, real estate transaction lawyers and business transaction lawyers and home closing attorneys, are busy. So it just always depends on what is happening. And if you are sufficiently reactive as a lawyer and you can kind of see what's happening in the economy, you can move along as is needed. There's one more thing that I need to say about that point, which is, as a lawyer, you can always self-employ. And so as long as you're not afraid to do that, then the question of how easy it is to get a job is almost irrelevant because you can just create a job for yourself, right? If you are a good enough lawyer and you're confident enough about your skills, you market yourself and then you can develop a client list and then you'll always be busy. So that's kind of how I would respond to that question is one, I think if you pay enough attention to what's happening around you and stay flexible, you can move where the need is as you find it. And then secondly, you can always self-employ.
Okay. Yeah. Where we come from, we don't spare the rod. That is true. I remember when I was teaching in Ghana, I taught high school in Ghana too. I've taught high school all my life. And I can whip a whole class of 30. I'll line them up and do that. But here we don't do that. We have systems in place for discipline. And our system here is so different. I know most of our community, people in our community, African community, are scared to do this job, take teaching positions because of how the students behave, and we cannot exert authority like we used to do in Ghana. But here in America, in the school system, we have systems in place for discipline. When students do something, we have administrators that deal with it. So you write them up, and then you leave it with administration to do it. We have in-school suspension, and then we have out-of-school suspension, and we have alternative campuses that deals with extreme behavior problems. So in the classroom, as a classroom teacher, you have to make sure you are firm and you have your procedures in place. You don't have to lose it. You establish it the first day and you have to be consistent. To be able to handle behavior in the classroom or in the school, consistency is very, very important. Whatever you say, that's what you do. So you can let students step out of your classroom for some few minutes if they misbehave. You don't have to exchange or put a hand on a student because there are systems in place for that. You write them up, and then the school give them this discipline according to what they did. So that is how we are handling discipline in our schools. There is a system in place for that. Yeah. Thank you.
I will answer to that because I have a unique perspective on this, right? I grew up in Ghana, but unfortunately, I didn't grow up in Ghana. I came here when I was 5. So I got to see some of what she alluded to, the whoopings. And if she will remember, you used to, well, I know me and my friends, we used to, whenever we're running to school, you'll find a bush or you'll find a leaf or something and you're tied together and you say, if I get a whooping, the next person that come behind me, I hope they trip or something. And you will know based on who was hurt at school. So I got a lot of whoopings because, again, my uncle happens to be they call it the schoolmaster, the headmaster, what we call superintendent or principal. So they didn't allow me to get away with anything, right? But then coming here, it is different. Now, I came where at time, it was okay for parents to pull up, and they would get the spanking. But eventually, the law came into play where you can't chastise your children no more. So parents became, especially African parents, became afraid, oh, if I chastise my child, immigration is going to come or CPS or something, but that's not the case. There is discipline and there is abuse. And with children, it's all about explaining. Children have questions. If we take the time out to listen to them and answer, I promise you. Think about when you first had your child, every time they cried, you knew what the cry was, whether if they were hungry, they needed to be changed, they needed to be held, whatever the reason was, there was a cry for it. Bring it into young adults. There's a reason why your child is misbehaving at home. She talked about the school aspect. I'm going to bring it to home. Dad is working 2 jobs, barely spending time with family. Mom is at home, but mom is glued to the TV, gossiping about Ghana or whatever that's going on at the church house or whatever is going on in the Ghanaian community. Not paying attention to the kids. Again, we back to this. We allowing this to raise our children. And like my sister said earlier, they're going from 3 to 5 different apps. You don't know what's on on this device that we allowing to quote unquote raise our children. I can get on TikTok. There's a child when I was at this particular district, couldn't barely write his name, but he knew how to get on a porn site and knew how to cuss you out in a complete sentence, but you asked him to write it, he couldn't do it. Because again, he know how to use this right here. So I would tell parents communication and taking the time out. You just came from work, you upset, your coworker, Susie, pissed you off. Okay, take a moment. Even if you got to sit in the car for extra 5 minutes, extra 10 minutes, or you come home, hey, honey, I need a second. It's all about communication. And especially as Africans, we don't do a lot of communicating. It's what I said and that's it. Please, 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 if you can, listen and communicate. Listening as well as talking with your children?
Thank you so much. So I'm gonna run through this online questions. Um, so the question, the person put it such that they want to hear both views, but there is one particular also for the lawyer. Okay. So how did you know which aspect of law or kind of teacher to focus on your career?
Okay, I'll go first. So you may remember that in my introduction, I had said that I was really interested in business. I wasn't, always going to be a lawyer. And so by the time I was making the decision and while I was in law school, I knew from my interest in business that that's the kind of lawyer that I wanted to be. And that's how come I'm not a litigator. I knew that I was, my undergraduate degree is in economics and in marketing. And so I've always had an interest in how businesses, operate. So that's the area that I quickly began to focus on. And till this day, it's the part of my of law practice that I enjoy the most, right? I enjoy the interactions between businesses. I enjoy, transactions. I enjoy, sort of one business buying another, or one business trying to raise some money, or if I'm, trying to do it myself or find some financing and things like that. It's the dealing and the negotiation and the transaction part that I've always, interested me. I've always been fascinated by how businesses operate and trying to, whether at an individual level or at a corporate level, take resources and put them together and turn it into something else, which is essentially what businesses do. So that's kind of where my interest lies, and that's how I ended up in the area that I practice in. But I'll just give another example just to flesh it out for those that are listening. Like, let's say, for example, you're out there and you're really interested in chemistry, science, how chemicals interact with each other, or inventions and creations, and you want to be a lawyer. There are, patent lawyers, for example, who every day, will be looking at inventions that others have made, making sure that they're able to submit those inventions to the USPTO, making sure that they have the right protections around them, and they're delving into how these inventions work and things like that. So if that's the area that's interesting to you, you can do that as a lawyer too. So I think what I've answered the question for myself, but also what I'll say to the members of our audience and anybody out there online who's listening is, you look inside yourself and see what really interests you, and that, I think, will lead you to the area of law practice that you'll be interested in, if that's what you want to do.
Thank you.
With teaching, the only areas or levels that you have a specialty is in middle school to high school and then college. So I desire to teach in the high school because that's where you have a specialty. So I have family and consumer science, which was called some few years ago, it was called home economics. I have a degree in that. And then I'm also a trained educator, like what is the trend now? Then I'll go and do it. So there was a time special education was a trend, so I had a degree in special education. And then when technology came, I did my master's in instructional technology. So I'm a trained, like, what's in there? What's the trend? Then I'll take my education in that. Yeah, but in America, education is too expensive, so I've stopped. I'm not going to school anymore. Otherwise, I have plans of doing other things in education. So that is it. I would say that I was motivated to take my area for home economics because my mom did bakery. So I entered into home economics to do bakery. And when I entered, I realized that it's not all about food. It's 3 aspects, and I loved one aspect, the management part. There is a management in home, family and consumer science, behavioral, child development, family life, and everything is in home economics. So that aspect is what I loved so much, and I like that. And that's it. So that's how I chose it. That one, the trend, and then my bakery. That's why I chose that line as my do I say subject area in my teaching based on the question you asked? Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Hills.
For me, I felt like first to get an education, I felt like it was a calling because it wasn't. I've never wanted to be a teacher. At first, I wanted to play soccer, and then eventually football, basketball, run track. Eventually, I told you, I remember I wanted to be a psychologist, right? So I didn't change about 10 different careers. But the one thing that was always consistent was children, children, children. And I always saw myself more happier when I'm around kids versus when I'm around adults. So coming into this new age, you see that there is not enough representation, meaning that there is not enough males in education. I can remember on one hand how many male teachers I had in all my life of being a student. On one hand, how many black men that was in education. So I wanted to fill a gap, but it just happened that reading, you can't get away from it. It's literally printed for you. It is on paper, it's black and white. There's no getting away from it. The reason why I didn't go to law school because I didn't have time to spend extra 3 years. But, I mean, you can't, it's right there. Unlike math, you got to do manipulation and try to figure it out. I don't have the brain capacity for it, right? So reading just fell into my hand, and I just happened to be good at it, and it just happened, again, shout out to Texas Southern University. If anybody, all my high schoolers, y'all should look into HBCU. I'm just saying. But it was just my teacher at Texas Southern, she would always have us to write a lot. So eventually I fell in love with writing, and being at my current position and current school, there was a need, and they was like, hey, we'd like for you to take over this particular content because we see that you're well knowledge and you're well versed in it. So that's how I end up as a reading and teaching. Reading and writing.
Thank you so much. And just a reminder, we do have the education technologist. Education technologist, Mrs. John Nunu. She's here for the parents that need some advice for their kids' experience in school from kindergarten to grade 12. So if you have questions, she's also here for you. Okay, there's another question. Do we have any question from the audience? Oh.
Okay, my question is, what is the place of purpose, passion, and planning when it comes to your career interest? I know our generation is so much focused on making money, a lot of money. So when it comes to purpose, passion, and planning into that career, how can we navigate that?
I guess I'll go ahead and start this one because he done started twice, so to be fair. One thing that I was asked before I thought about going back to school was, what is the one thing that you can see yourself constantly waking up every morning and be excited to go to? Once you find that answer, then you can say, okay, how can I then become the best person in this position? How can I know everything there is to know about what it is that I'm doing? And that's how I approach teaching, right? And with teaching, it's literally day by day. You can plan out your month, you can plan out your week, but I guarantee you Monday will not look like Tuesday. Tuesday would not look like Wednesday. Wednesday would not look like Thursday. So if you understand what I'm saying, in education, you have to stay on your toes for the unpredictable, what you did not plan for. And also coming up with a 5-year plan. I've always told myself, no matter where I am, no matter what position I'm in, I would never see myself there more than 3 years. After 3 years, if we cannot negotiate for me to get more money, there is somebody else that's willing to pay me more. Eventually, the money is gonna come. First is finding out what you wanna do, and then becoming the best that you can, not what everybody else tells. The best version that you can be, and just advocating for yourself when it's time to move. Whether if it's a year, 2 years, 6 months, everybody get mad because people be at a job for 3 months and they move. So what? Okay, they're not treating you better. Move on. Because guess what? You pass out today, we're going to raise $1 for you. And guess what you're going to do see tomorrow? Somebody that's taking your position.
Thank you. Okay. To answer your question, not everything is money. You have to have, the key thing is job satisfaction. How satisfactory are you based on what you are doing? Is it about only you and the money, or what impact do you want to have on people? That is what you have to look to choose a profession. If it's about money, you can get the job today, you can get the money, and you can lose the job the next day. So what are you doing? But if it's about something that you are so passionate about to do, that is when you do it well. Like teaching, it's not about money. Though we are paid very well, we are paid well. And like it was said earlier, you feel like you are not doing anything in summer, but you're getting money. It is your money that you have spread throughout the year. So you have to be very passionate about the profession you want to have. Otherwise, you cannot do any of them. There is no easy job. Everything, if you're a nurse, if you are a teacher, if you are an engineer, if you're a salesperson, if people will get on your nerves, but you still have to go to work, you still have to do something. So you have to look at what makes you happy, your passion, to pick a profession. If I love to share, if I love to interact, maybe I'll be a human, a teacher. If you want to interact to know more HR, what you love to do is what will take you to make you pick a profession. It's not about the money, because not every job pays. If it's all about the money, you pick some job that you really don't want to. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's I love both of those answers, and I won't talk about all the P's that you described. I'll just talk about planning, because I think the others have been talked about earlier. I think just to layer on top of what the other panelists have said, planning is incredibly important, right? Even before we get to the point of you planning for a specific career, I think it's important to emphasize to everyone in the room here and to our audience online the importance of planning to be successful. You just have to plan to be successful, whatever your career is, whatever career you end up picking for yourself. And that means you need, from an early stage, to start applying yourself to your work, right? Build good habits. Apply yourself and excel in school. Listen to your teachers and your parents, do your assignments. Exercise that muscle of having a goal and a target and getting it done, right? Do your assignments all the time. Practice being a hard worker. Practice being organized. Plan to be successful in the fact that you keep your room organized, that you keep, your life clean and organized, that you establish and maintain good relationships in your community. Plan to give some of your time to those in need. Give some of your resources to those in need. Be helpful. If you plan to do those things, you'll exercise the muscle of being effective and efficient. You'll be able to take a task or a goal and apply yourself to it and see it through. And that's how you plan to be successful. And then you'll take those skills that you've learned over time as you get out of high school and you get into college. You'll have the the habit of working hard and being successful, putting in the effort and seeing the reward for it. And then when you decide what career is and you decide how to follow your passion, you'll know how to work it. Because it's really important too. It's not just, I'm passionate about this or whatever and stuff like that. You have to plan to be successful and learn to apply yourself. And so I just want to emphasize that P2 and layer that on there, right? Plan to be successful and work those habits and start developing them really early.
Okay, and as you said, with the planning, you plan financially too, as to the profession that you're going to take upon yourself. Because if you want to do medical, you become a medical doctor, it's a lot of money into it. Though you get student loan, but you have to plan also that when I finish school, how much money will I make to be able to pay the student loan? So in your planning, you plan the cost of your profession too.
There's a lot of scholarships and grants. It's not just loans. I'm just saying.
Thank you
Because we
also.
always think that loans is the only way. There's a lot of grants and scholarships. Trust me, free money. And there are people that will give you free money. I got you. We're going to talk.
Okay, there's a specific question to the lawyer. Is there a recommended school for a particular kind of law career?
No, I wouldn't say that. First of all, if you, just to kind of keep on the trend that we are on right now, if you work hard and plan to be successful and you're generally excelling, then the broadest advice that I can give you at this stage is to go to the best law school or any other kind of school that you can get into, but also that you can afford. That makes financial sense as
TSU.
well. Yes. So go to the best institution that you can get into, and that makes financial sense, that you can afford and makes financial sense for you, and then you'll get the best outcomes. But there aren't, certain law schools have programs that are known around the world or in the industry for for certain things, and that's information that you can find you can find online. But I think the most important thing is to get into the best institution that you can and the one that makes the most financial sense to you.
Thank you so much, Leonikwe. There's another one. It was a follow-up question from before. She said, what are the courses you choose when you are just now getting into college from high school? So I guess it's for both law and to be a teacher, because it was a follow-up from earlier on.
All right. First degree, like for your first bachelor's degree, you can, as I said, let me go back. As I said, with the teaching, we have three-part way for teaching. There's one that you just enter the school and say you're going to do teaching. So that's when you pick your subject area, what you desire to teach. But you will have educational courses that is attached to it. So by the time you finish your 4-year degree, you have acquired both your teaching, educational courses, and your subject area course for teaching. And then there's the other one too, that you can do any course. You can choose to learn anything. Then you come out and then you decide to be a teacher. So I think that is it. Just when you are going in, just pick any school. But to add to what lawyer Mr. Nikwe was saying, some schools are known for some programs. Okay, for education like this in Texas, Sam Houston produces the best educators, and that's where I went to. I did my master's. Sam Houston is known for education. And why is it that some schools are known for certain courses? Because of connection. That when you do those courses, the school is known to be good at law, like TSU. I know they are good at law and pharmacy. So they have connection with companies. You go to Texas A&M, you do engineering. They have connection with this oil companies. You go to University of Houston, U of H, you do business administration. they have relationship, they have connection with those businesses. So some schools are known to be good at setting programs, and it is just for connection, like Harvard, and then they know that you go to Harvard, you have good connection for big companies. But for education, for the question, for first degree, you can change your courses even as you go through. You can go to sophomore year, change your course, junior year, change your course. It depends on what you want to do. Thank you. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you. And I think for
Should
law
I-
too. Yeah, because it was for
Yeah.
both law and education.
Okay, so as I said in the beginning, there aren't specific courses or undergraduate degrees that I would say are required to be a lawyer. But I will say this generally about an undergraduate degree. This is a bit of my personal belief, but I think that when you go to university, it's an opportunity for you to learn a lot about the world in which you operate. So whether you have a major picked up when you're starting or not, I think that you should take the opportunity to learn something about finance and the way business and money works in this world. Just as a value to yourself, I think you should take the opportunity to take some courses in that area. I think you should take the opportunity to learn about society and the way the world works and people interact with each other. Again, regardless of what your actual major is, I think that will be really beneficial to you. I think that you should take the opportunity also to learn about politics and the way our government and institutions of government are run, and the way that those institutions interact with us. So regardless of what major you take, I think that these are things that you can just take, like courses and electives and those things, and it'll make the university degree more valuable to yourself. You'll come out with something that you can actually use for yourself to operate in this society in a better way. That's what I'll say about that.
So I want to add to that. So these courses are taught in the high schools. We teach financial literacy. We have an elective like that. And then we teach sociology. And that is about you and the society. We teach that too in the high school. And it's required. Every student takes sociology in the high school. And then we teach U.S. governments. And that is where you get to know the politics of this nation. So there's some courses, please don't play with it. When you are put in them, take them, the financial literacy, you can ask for your counselors to put you in there for those classes in the high school. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any more questions from the audience? Oh, we got two more. Okay, so we're just gonna run this quick because we are towards the end of the session.
Right, there's a quick question for the audience. We are not so much taught how to manage failure when it comes. And I know, if not all of our panelists, maybe some of you have encountered disappointment or failure on your way to your career. Maybe your boss didn't like you, you were fired from a job, situation happened and you were laid off. How can we tell our kids or those here that the path is not straight, and if they encounter something, how should they manage it? Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm just gonna let the that question sink in, and let's see what other question you have.
My question is mainly for the teachers. So, if you're a teacher and you want to become a superintendent or a principal, what are the requirements or what procedures may you have to take?
I think that's for Mrs. Sousu. So Mrs. Sousu can take that. And then, so we'll answer the first one, and Mrs. Sousu can take the second question.
Okay, so the first question, I'm sorry, let me make sure I heard you correctly, because I did have something to say to that, but I'm going to let Mrs. Owusu handle. No, you got it. You're fine. I'm sorry, can you repeat your question one more time, please?
I think it was for failures. How are you going to guide?
Oh, that's right. Thank you. So one thing I like to remind everyone, and obviously we in a church, so I'm going to go ahead and say this. Amen. There was only one person that walked this earth that was perfect. And he died over 2,000 some years ago. We all know him. Who is it?
Jesus.
Jesus Christ. Mistakes is part of life. You will not learn if you don't make mistakes. You will not learn if you don't fail. Failure is the best teacher in life. Failure is the best teacher in life because when you fail, it gives you an opportunity, a second chance to undo the first mistake. You should learn from it. You keep bumping your head into the wall. Obviously, you should figure out, oh man, there's a door right there. Let me turn the knob. Einstein said it best. Insanity is doing what? Same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. If you know something is not working, let's find another alternative. And allowing your children or your students to make the mistake and not chastise it. I didn't know we. I bunny. Nah, it's part of life. You telling the child may not be the best thing for them. Some people have to experience. Experience is the best teacher. So if you don't try, you won't know. And if you don't put your best foot forward, how can you know what you're good at?
Thank you, Mr. Mensah. Lawyer Nikwe, you want to take that question too about the failures, how you can guide?
No, actually, I think he said it all.
Thank you. So then we're gonna jump to the other question. And Mr. Mensah, please feel free to chip in. Yeah, please, you can help. Okay, in education, our basic level requirement is to have a bachelor's degree. But if you want to do anything higher than just being a classroom teacher, not that the classroom teachers haven't furthered their education. Some of the classroom teachers are doctors, have master's degree and all of that. But you have to for you to be in the administrative level, you need a master's degree in administration, in teaching, educational administration. So you have to have a master's degree before you can get any higher position in teaching. As for the doctorate, it's just an addition. It's an addition. But to be a principal, to be a superintendent and everything, you need educational administration, higher level degree, like master's degree. To be a counselor, you need master's degree. To be a principal and up, everything, you have to have master's degree before you can be that person. But the doctorate is just an addition. And that can open a door, but the most is master's degree to be in the administrative level in education. Yeah. Is your question answered? Yes. And then it doesn't just come. You have to apply. Positions will come and you apply to be a principal. They don't just push you like that. In where we come from in Ghana, it's longevity that give you your promotion. But here, no. You have to apply for it to be an administrator, to be the superintendent. They will put it out there. So it's education, master's degree, and app, and experience. That will get you to those positions.
And connections.
Thank you all so much. And just to lighten up on that education levels, when she talks about bachelor's, it's actually the first 4 years of college. Mm-hmm. Right, because I'm sure some people are like, what is master's? Okay, yes, first 4 years of college is bachelor's degree. You get your bachelor's degree. And then if you want to specialize, some can take a year, some can take 2 years, but that's what we call the masters. Like you are mastering into something. And that's what she referred to. And then after master's is the PhD or the doctorate. And that's the highest level you can go. The education should. People have postdoctorates. Oh, okay. There is postdoctorate. Okay, you see, the teachers are teaching us. So, like she said, bachelor's is your first university degree, okay? 4 years degree, that's bachelor's. But we have associate degree too, and that is 2 years. So anything higher than high school, you get the educational level. We have the associate degree, We have the bachelor's degree, which is 4 years of college, and we have the master's, which is at most 2 years. And we have the doctorate. We have some doctorate that is 2, 3, 4, 6 years. It depends on which one you take. The PhD is the longest because that one is a higher, it demands a lot to get there. Then people have post-doctorate. So that is where you can go. You can go as for education, you can go. You can have as many certificates that you can. But the ladder or the hierarchy is what we have just mentioned. From primary to college, then post-college. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I believe we don't have any more questions from the audience, and I don't see any more questions online. So that brings us to the end of the Education Legal Mentorship Program for Spring. Thank you all so much. Our mentors, we have lawyer Nikwe Kote. We have Mrs. Adelina Ousu and Mr. Kwame Mensah. But most especially, we want to extend our greatest thanks to our sponsors. Yes. The biggest sponsor we have is ICGC Praise Temple. They gave us the venue. They gave us all the equipment here. We are very grateful to them. And if you don't have a church home, ICGC Praise Temple is a very good place for you to come to. And also to Houston Spine Institute, Prime Express Pharmacy, and then the Ghana Association of Houston. All of these sponsors, these people sponsor the professional mentorship program, and we are grateful to them. Again, we cannot pay you for the time that you spent with us. It's not easy. I tell you what, it's not easy for you to get professionals like this to come sit down. That's for 2 hours? Yes. We can't pay them. Yes, but they dedicated this time because they also care about the youth and the community. So thank you all so much for coming. And this brings us to the end of the session today. We're going to say a prayer to end this. Father, Lord, we just want to thank you for bringing us to the end of another session. We thank you for all the information that you have given out to us. We pray, Lord, that a lot of us will take word from it, and those of us that have chosen to be on this career, by God's grace, they will have mentors that will guide them. In Jesus' name, we thank you, Lord, and we bless your holy name. Even as we are all going home, we pray, Lord, that you give us safe journey mercies to our various destinations. This and many more we ask in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you all so much, my audience online and in person. Thank you all so much for coming. Have a good day.